One of the most common pieces of advice that artists hear from artistic professionals, myself included, is to quote, be consistent. And the very interesting thing that I've learned in my career, both as a teacher and as an artist, is that most artists are consistent. They show up, they do the work. Yet, many artists for many years continue to feel like their art and their careers aren't growing, and they get very frustrated with that. And the reason I believe this happens is because very often, consistency is the thing that's prescribed to artists to fix the problem instead of the thing that actually matters. And that's what I want to talk about today. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, would it make sense for me to give a ballet dancer, a boxer, and a marathon runner the same training routine? To get them to do the same cardio, the same resistance training, and the same flexibility training, and the same diet? Obviously not. Each different sport requires conditioning in different ways to optimize their performance in the given sport that they're pursuing. It makes sense in that context. In that same vein, would it make sense for a fine artist who works in oil, a designer who works on pencil and paper, a digital concept artist who works for film and games, and an independent illustrator who designs books and trading cards, the same training routine as well? Obviously not. These are all very unique minds, very unique types of creativity, and use very different types of tools. So it makes sense that before consistency, each individual artist first has to have a sense of direction. They need to know where they're going with their work. They need to know what career they're pursuing. They need to know what muscles to focus on, so that the training that they get isn't wasteful, that they're actually applying their energy towards something that's going to get them the results that they already are looking for. So the first important takeaway is to remember that consistency is just a multiplier. It's not a compass. Direction is the compass. Direction is letting you know which way to go with your work. Consistency is just going to multiply the benefits of that direction you're trying to get to. Something that I've mentioned many times in the past is that when we're just repeating things for the sake of repeating them, if we're just practicing every single day and we don't know where we're going with this, we start to get tired and we start to burn ourselves out. That's the equivalent of me just saying, okay, you athlete number 2, start running. For how long? I'll let you know, just keep running. And then they keep running and they keep running and they keep running and they keep running, and eventually they collapse because they're exhausted. And then as they're sitting there panting on the ground, they say, what now? And I say, okay, wait for you to recover. And then they recover and they get back on their feet again. And they say, what now? And I say, okay, start running again. That wouldn't last, would it? Well, this is exactly what we do artistically. With our brains, with our hands, with our pursuits, with our dreams. We keep running indefinitely. What ends up happening when you put in that much effort over that length of a time, because remember, art is a long game, not a short game. This is something that hopefully will last decades, not weeks, right? Is that you start to get frustrated. And when all of that effort doesn't culminate into a result that you can benefit from, that's when artists start to distrust their methods. They start to lose trust in themselves, and that's very damaging. So remember, artists don't burn out from work. I work every day, all the time, and I'm not anywhere near burnt out. In fact, I'm very invigorated. It's that artists get tired from work that goes nowhere. The reason why we can fall into this trap, and it's very easy to kind of tip the scales in the wrong direction, is that activity feels productive. When I'm doing stuff, when I'm showing up every day, when I set my Pomodoro timer and I do my practices every day, when I take this class and that class, when I buy this gumroad and that gumroad, and I'm practicing, it feels productive. It feels like it should get me somewhere, but that's not always the case. In order to make real progress, you need feedback, you need reflection, and of course, you need to adjust your work accordingly. If you're speaking to a different type of professional, let's say you're talking to Clint and Diana Kearley because you want to be a Magic the Gathering artist, the type of feedback that they're going to give you is going to be extremely relevant to the type of artistic results you're looking to pursue, because this is something they do for a living. This is their passion. This is something that they refined over decades. These are top professionals. By getting that personalized feedback from that artist who has that particular style that really matches where you want to go, you are amplifying every effort. So remember, movement is not momentum. It's just movement. And eventually, you're going to collapse. You're going to tap out. Another very important thing to take into consideration, and this is something that can and very often does impact your physical, medical, and emotional health, is that you're not a robot. It's not always sunny outside. Right now it's minus 14 degrees, minus 25 with the wind chill. It's snowy and icy outside. I'm not outside sunbathing and getting vitamin D. I'm not going for walks outside. And I have to take into consideration that my energy level isn't always the same. Sometimes I've got a lot of preoccupations. I've got taxes to pay. I've got responsibilities that I need to take care of. So sometimes I have to be able to move my energy around and focus myself in different ways, or maybe slow myself down and take rests. So trying to maintain this high level of productivity and constantly being consistent when I don't necessarily have the energy to be that consistent can actually do more harm than good. And I have to be able to adjust myself according to my energy level. So that's the third point. Consistency that doesn't respect reality very often breaks people, as it did with me more than once. Here's another thing. Willpower, in and of itself, is not a sustainable resource. Willpower is something that'll get you through when you're working in a studio and it's crunch time and you've got another solid week of hard work where you're showing up late and you're pushing yourself through that last little bit before you can take a good well-deserved break. It's a short burst thing, like a sprint. But that's not what an artistic career is. An artistic career cannot sustain itself on high adrenaline work. When you're working in a studio, that's not time to experiment and do all kinds of crazy shit. That's the time for you to be able to apply the structure that you've learned in school and in practice. Because when you're in a professional setting, you don't have the luxury of showing up when you feel like it. You need to be able to show up and do the work on demand, which means you need to learn the discipline of managing your energy and your focus properly beforehand, not after the fact. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of artists work at their own pace when they're working from home. They didn't necessarily have any set structure, but then when they actually get hired and they work in a studio, they do really, really well for around 3-4 months. And then as the month starts to pass, once you start to hit that 6-month probationary period, that's when your productivity starts to take a nosedive, because you realize you're just running on high octane all the time and you deplete yourself very quickly. So when willpower fails, structure needs to take over. So any well-disciplined artist who works professionally and who's hyper-productive knows how to work in an efficient way that helps to conserve their energy. It's not laziness, it's discipline. In closing, I want to clarify that consistency is not bad advice. It's advice that I give to artists all the time. It's just incomplete advice. And when consistency is given without direction, it can actually do more harm than good. I've seen it more than once. In closing, I just want to clarify something. Consistency is not bad advice. It's advice that I give to artists all the time, on my channel and when I'm teaching in my mentorship. It's just incomplete advice, because consistency without a sense of direction is what eventually burns artists out. If you find that that's happening in your life, where you've been putting in so much energy that you're starting to hit a bit of a tipping point and you don't know where you're going, that's a good indication to you that you need to reach out to a professional to help give you that feedback and give you a better sense of direction on where you're going with your artwork, so that you can get that reward of progress, the reward of the prospect of a career moving forward. And you're not just dumping your energy into a vat and eventually collapsing. Sound good? Hopefully you got some value out of that. In my next video, I want to talk about how a lot of artists burn out even when they feel like they're, quote, doing everything right. When you do follow advice and you still feel like you're burning out. That's what I want to talk about next time. And of course, I love you all with all my heart, and happy painting. Take care.